All right, we are live. Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Michael Music. I'm 23 years old. I'm from Bucks County, PA. It's right outside of Philadelphia. And the conversation that I want to have today is around the fear of ill health. Okay, so, this has been a pretty dominant fear from pretty recently, from 2020 to about 2023. I feel like we're definitely past COVID, and people have finally gotten over this fear. And it's pretty interesting that once the masses got over the fear of ill health, right, all of a sudden the disease disappears. So, I'm going to have an interesting conversation around this fear. I'm going to bring up some controversial points that are from my thinking only, and I'll save them for the end. But I want to talk about um, just a couple things real quick before. So, he actually notes that most of the doctor's visits, right? 75% of all people who actually visit physicians for professional services are suffering from hypochondria, which is also known as imaginary illness, right? So it's this situation where you think you have something, you look it up on the internet, what are the symptoms, and all of a sudden you're looking for the symptoms, and this fear, no joke, will literally create the symptoms for it. So, before I dive too deep into that, let me talk about, what could be, some of the things that you are doing that you don't realize you're doing that could actually be a symptom of this fear, and then I'll go deeper into the controversial stuff about the fear of ill health. But number one is autosuggestion. Okay, so do you have the habit of self suggestion by looking for and expecting to find the symptoms of all kinds of disease, right? Do you enjoy imaginary illness and speak of it as if it's real, right? Do you have that habit of trying all fads and isms recommended by others as having therapeutic value? Right? Are you constantly talking about sickness, disease, operations, hospitals, etc., with your friends and others? So, this is kind of what I was saying, right? Number one is auto suggestion, right? Are you consistently suggesting to yourself that you are sick? Now, I'm going to pause right here and just say what I got to say. But most of the people that die from sickness don't die from the disease themselves, but they die from the auto suggestion. And what is that? It's essentially, what they keep saying to themselves. They literally make themselves sick, and at that point they end up killing themselves, right? So I get that, I'm gonna offend some people by saying that, but it's true. Think about it like this: when you got diagnosed with COVID, if you did, right, nothing happened until all of a sudden you got the positive result back, and all of a sudden you start losing your taste, your sense of smell, because one of the symptoms that it says is the sense of smell, right? It's we do this to ourselves through our minds, because you got to realize that the body is an instrument of the mind. So the way that we think determines what happens in our body. You can literally create symptoms by the way that you think, right? At this point, when I discover this, I don't get sick no more, right? I do not get sick because I don't think in terms of sickness and disease, right? There's this one great book by Wallace D. Wattles called The Science of Getting Rich, and he says in there that there is no disease, right? The truth is that there's only health and well-being, and most people are going to really disagree with me here, but that's the truth. There is no disease, right? You don't die from sickness, you simply kill yourself through autosuggestion and negative use of this principle. Okay, number two, the second symptom is hypochondria, right? Do you have the habit of talking of the illness? Are you constantly concentrating your mind upon disease? Are you expecting its appearance until a nervous break occurs? Right? He says that nothing that comes in a bottle can cure this condition. It is brought on by negative thinking, and nothing but positive thought can affect a cure. All right, so hypochondria is a medical term for imaginary disease. and it is said to do as much damage on occasion as the disease one fears might do, right? So I'm not saying to take this lightly. Like the people that are sick, right? They they definitely are experiencing symptoms and we want them to get better. I'm not saying that they should suck it up, but this disease is just as deadly as real disease itself. All right. So next one is exercise, right? So do you often lack proper physical exercise, right? Are you overweight? Um, it's simple as that, right? If you wanna be healthy, you can simply exercise. Now, I understand, most people aren't going to just take my word for it, and they've heard this hundreds and hundreds of times, but it's just the truth, right? Are you exercising or are you not? Next is susceptibility, right? Do you so All right, so I don't have a question for this, but he says that the fear of ill health breaks down nature's body resistance and creates a favorable condition for any form of disease one may contact. The fear of ill health often is related to the fear of poverty, especially in the case of hypochondriac, who constantly worries about the possibility of having to pay doctor's bills, hospital bills, etc. This type of person spends too much time preparing for sickness, talking about death, saving money for cemetery lots and burial expenses. So, what is he saying there? Are you planning when you're going to get sick, right? Are you planning for your death? Are you planning for when you might experience the hospital bill? Because you also, this is like kind of alongside the fear of poverty. Now, I'm not too familiar with people that are doing this, but maybe you are like worrying about when you're going to get sick and planning ahead for it. And as fate would have it, you've kind of fulfilled the prophecy yourself, and you do get sick because you thought yourself into sickness. All right. Next is self-coddling, right? Do you have the habit, right? Are you asking others constantly for sympathy? Are you using imaginary illness as the lure, right? Are you using, the your ability to get sick as a reason for people to feel sympathetic for you, to start caring for you because, you got other loneliness problems going on in your mind, right? Do you have the habit of feigning illness to cover plain laziness or to serve as an alibi for lack of ambition? All right. Next is intemperance, right? Do you have the habit of using alcohol or narcotics to destroy pain points such as headaches, neuralgia, etc., instead of eliminating the cause? All right. So those are the habits that I want to talk about. Now, I want to. I've said this before, but I want to bring it up again. Right? Think about this. What caused, COVID to spread as quick as it did? And it was one thing, right? This is just my theory, but it's truly, I think I'm right here. It was the news, right? Constantly, over and over and over again. The news was programming us to fear ill health. Stay inside, right? It was blasting fear. How many deaths, how many COVID deaths happened, right? No one knows, you know, how serious it was until then. And then what ended COVID? What was the ending era of COVID-19? What was when the news shifted from blasting COVID deaths to now talking about the fear of war and the fear of death with Ukraine and Russia, right? Think about that. All of a sudden, no one cares about wearing masks no more because they have a new fear. It's this cycle, right? This is how the devil works. He spreads mass fear. This is the same thing. Think about it. We're talking something that repeats over and over again. We're talking about something even going back to 1938 when Napoleon Hill was writing this book. I'm sure there was some disease going on then that most people were fearful about, and they actually had to post in the papers that the disease is fine, like it's good to come out, and all of a sudden, people were healthy again, right? It is this fear that is spreading the disease, and this is no joke, right? Go back to history and just realize that at the end of the day, we're going through cycles of mass fear, right? So after
There's nobody calling right now.
oh my god, right after the fear of ill health, then came the fear of war or fear of death, and then what came next, right? They're all talking on the news about the economy crashing, right? So the fear of poverty comes back into play. It's a cycle. It just cycles on and on and on. That's when I realized, I don't, you know, I'm not aware of any of this anymore because I simply stopped watching the news, and all of a sudden, this fears start diminishing. Right at the end of the day, they say, there's the economy out there, and then there's my economy. Right? What can I control? Well, I can control how much money I'm earning simply because of how much value I'm providing to the marketplace. So at the end of the day, what am I saying? I'm saying that these fears, they're ghosts of fears. They come in cycles, and we'll see them over and over and over again, right? It's not going to be like, they just disappears. We'll see another, you know, economic crisis come up, and people start to worry and panic, and prices go up, et cetera, et cetera. But it is what it is. So that's my little talk about the fear of ill health, right? I want you to understand that the biggest takeaway from this is, this fear is the root cause of the actual, feeling of getting sick. Now, am I saying that there's no such thing as diseases and viruses out there? No, I'm not. But I am saying that, the simple fear of this is enough to cause you to feel more sick than the actual disease itself. So, very controversial conversation today, but I had to say it. So appreciate you all for watching. This was Think and Grow Rich, the fear of ill health. And with that being said, I will see you tomorrow. I'll go live and be talking about, I think, another one of the fears. So stay tuned for that. All right, bye for now.